Hi, my name is Alexandra, and I'm a consultant at Bain & Company. Sitting next to me is my colleague Elliot, also a consultant at Bain. We're here to give you an idea about what it's like to be a consultant at Bain & Company by walking you through a typical problem that our clients would hire us to help solve. Ultimately, our job is about solving difficult business problems for our clients. So in this short video, we'll walk you through a typical client engagement that we would experience at Bain. After that, we'll talk about why we enjoy being management consultants, what it's like to be a management consultant, and how you can become a management consultant if it sounds like a career that you enjoy. So without further ado, let's jump right into the problem.
We were recently hired by the leaders of Orange Inc. to help them solve a problem that they were struggling with. Specifically, we were approached by the Chief Executive Officer, the Chief Financial Officer, the Senior Vice President of Marketing, and the Senior Vice President of Operations. Together, these leaders represent the senior-most part of the management team, similar to the principal and vice principal at your local schools. Orange Inc. is a technology company focused on consumer products. So think about apparel, clothing, school supplies, computers, that sort of thing. More specifically, they're focused on consumer electronics, and some of their products include computers, digital music players, and smartphones.
It's currently April 2009, and Orange Incorporated has come up with a product that they think is unlike any product on the market today. It's a tablet computer called MyPad, which a user can interact with via a touch screen that relies mostly on apps. The product is kind of a mix between a laptop computer and a smartphone, and it's used primarily for reading emails, reading articles, or watching movies. The CEO has approached us because they need help determining what total market demand is and how many they can expect to sell, because there isn't anything like this product on the market today. So in order to help the CEO, we need to figure out what the total potential market is, as well as what the initial demand is, so that they can properly prepare for the product launch. Now I'll let Elliot elaborate on this and provide some assumptions and constraints that can help you solve the problem.
Thanks. As suggested, our client, Orange Inc., has developed a new product, and the CEO and his team need help estimating total potential market and estimating demand. As we evaluate this question, there are a few key assumptions and constraints which we need to be aware of. To forecast demand, you can use the following assumptions. Orange Inc. only wants to know U.S. demand for the first 2 years. There is only one tablet option being sold, and this tablet will cost $100 per unit to make, and Orange Inc. plans to sell it for $300. There are 300 million people in the U.S., representing 115 million households. Assume these 115 million households are grouped into these income brackets shown on the screen. Assume that the average U.S. household spends 2% of total income on consumer electronics, and 20% of this spend is on new technologies. For simplicity, you can use the midpoint of each income bracket for estimating electronic spend, and $250,000 for the upper bracket. Finally, as you think about demand for the first 2 years, you should keep in mind that consumers, people like you and I, don't always purchase new technologies at the same time. Think about it. A teenager is more comfortable buying new technology than a grandparent. Luckily, some very smart people have researched this and come up with a neat way of factoring this into the analysis: an innovation adoption curve. The innovation adoption curve is based on a model that describes the adoption or acceptance of a new product or technology according to the demographic and psychological characteristics of a certain group. The model indicates that the first group of people to use a new product is called innovators, followed by early adopters. Next come the early and late majority, and the last group to eventually adopt a product are called laggards. Another way to think about this is how your own family might adopt new technology. Typically, the younger group, you and me, pick up on new technology and want it early. You're more willing to take risks on technology and try new things. You would be the innovator or early adopters of your family. Your parents are generally more hesitant because they are comfortable with what they have and aren't as receptive to change, but will eventually adopt as they see the benefits from watching you. Your parents are the early or late majority. Finally, your grandparents would be classified as the laggards. They're typically last to adopt new technologies. While the percentage adoption rates may vary by product, we can use this curve for the purposes of this exercise. Assume that the innovators will adopt in year 1 and early adopters will adopt in year 2. Given what you know, How many MyPads should Orange Ink reasonably expect to sell in the first 2 years?
Before sharing the solution, it's important to point out that there are generally multiple ways to answer a problem like this. In addition, assumptions that you make can affect your final solution, so don't be disappointed if your final answer is different from ours. In order to forecast demand for the new product, we first need to determine how many U.S. households can reasonably afford a new product that costs $300 to assess the total potential market. Before jumping into the problem, it helps to think of a framework to help you answer the question. In our case, we need to first understand how many households exist in the U.S. and then divide these households into income buckets so that we know how many of these households can afford a new product that costs $300. Once we understand this, we can use a technology-focused demand predictor tool, the curve previously discussed, to determine the total potential market for this new technology within the first 2 years. In this case, we were given assumptions for these items to simplify the problem. Now that we have structured the problem, it's about performing the analysis. There are generally 2 main ways to perform this analysis: top-down versus bottom-up. Top-down analysis is starting with a macro data point and using assumptions to pare down to the addressable market. This is useful when you don't have a lot of data. It is generally less precise, but much quicker. The other method is bottom-up. Bottom-up is when you start with a micro point and use assumptions to get to the right answer. This method is generally more precise, but takes a lot more time. It also requires more detailed data surrounding the problem. What do you think is the most appropriate in this case? Given the lack of data, we went with the top-down approach. Now that we have the framework and have aligned on how to solve the problem, we need to make the necessary assumptions around total potential market and demand.
Total potential market. We started with the total number of U.S. households of 115 million. The average household spends 2% of their income on consumer technology per year and 20% of that spend on new technologies, or 0.4% of total income. Using the table from before and applying this percentage of total income, we developed the following table that illustrates the total number of households that could afford this product. Therefore, there are a total of 25 million households in the U.S. that can reasonably afford to pay for our product. If we sold a MyPad to every household, the total market would be $7.6 billion in sales. However, remember that not everyone adopts new technology as soon as a product is introduced. Therefore, we need to utilize our assumptions for technology adoption to determine how many we can reasonably expect to sell in the first 2 years. Using the adoption curve provided, we can assume that 2.5% of the 25 million households will purchase a MyPad in the first year, and a total of 13.5% will purchase one in the second year. 25.3 million households times 2.5% equals 632,500 households in year 1. Doing the same thing times 13.5% gets 3.4 million households in year 2. So the total for the first 2 years comes to just over 4 million. Now that we've helped Orange Ink estimate demand, it's time to prepare for product launch. How does our analysis compare with yours? Given our estimated demand, would you be comfortable planning to manufacture that many MyPads, or would you conservatively manufacture less until actual demand is known after initial sales?
This type of problem is one that companies on the leading edge of technology are dealing with every day. Think about the first company that tried to sell a cell phone or a computer. Even today, Google probably has an entire team dedicated to forecasting how many Google Glasses they can sell and how quickly people are going to adopt the new technology. Furthermore, this analysis can get complicated quickly. In our analysis, we implicitly assumed that Orange Incorporated would be the only company offering a tablet for 2 years, so everyone interested in buying one would buy the MyPad. This is rarely the case if a new product is successful. Consider the fact that Apple introduced the iPhone in 2009, and within a year there were similar smartphone products introduced by plenty of competitors: Samsung, Nokia, Motorola, HTC, etc. How do you account for this competition in your analysis? Will competitors offer a similarly priced product or try to piggyback off our success and target lower income brackets that can't afford Orange Incorporated's products? What new features could the competition offer that would render the MyPad obsolete? If competition offers product features that the market wants, should Orange Inc. copy these new features on the next version or invest in new technology to leapfrog the competition? These questions are the problems technology companies are grappling with every day, and many of them call us to help figure it out.
One of the cool things about a job in management consulting is that we get to advise leaders of large companies on really important decisions, just like the one we ran through today. We work in different types of industries: technology, oil and gas, retail, transportation, and even non-profits. Every day is new and different, which is both challenging and really rewarding. We are very committed to not only solving problems for our clients, but also helping them actually implement these solutions. This means working side by side with our clients on a daily basis, which has a long-lasting impact on the companies with which we work. We work hard and travel quite a bit, but we are passionate and proud of the difference that we make for our clients. Perhaps the most enjoyable part of the job is the people with whom we work. As consultants, we always work in teams, which usually consist of 4 to 6 people. Our conversations are always thought-provoking, and we learn something new every day. As you begin thinking about your career, we encourage you to think about management consulting. It's a high-impact, rewarding profession.
At Bain, we hire people directly out of undergrad and from a variety of majors, including business, engineering, science, and more. However, what all of our employees share are a strong math background and an ability to creatively solve problems. These are things we specifically test in our job interviews, which we call case interviews, similar to the problem we went through today. We also look for applicants with strong soft skills, such as their ability to communicate, demonstrate empathy, and be a leader. As you prepare for your future career, it is important to develop your people skills in addition to your intellectual ability. In your everyday life, you can think about other examples, like the business case we went through here. You can try to think about how valuable any business you interact with is, or how many people might use a given business in a day or year. Try to think about the business challenges that you run into every day and how you can quantify them. In closing, what is one thing that you will do differently after viewing this video?